144 verses. So, 30 classes, 5 verses. Really. So, a long way to go. Om Shrutismritipuranānaṁ Ālayam Karunalayam Namāmi Bhagavatpādam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhāshyakratau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Gukarastvandhakaro Vai Rukarastan Nivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururuttabhidhiyate Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryaṃ Karavāvahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The means of knowing. If it is your senses, like eyes, ears, then the knowledge gained, like you are seeing me, is not inferred knowledge. It is knowledge born of direct perception. This knowledge is called pratyaksha jnanam. Direct knowledge. Even if you have instruments attached to your eyes, ears, we can take it as pratyaksha jnanam, direct knowledge. So from that we can understand there is indirect knowledge. If you make an inferential knowledge, seeing the light here, you say there is sun above and there are no clouds covering the sun. Looking at this light, we can say that. So that is inferential knowledge. Very valid, but indirect. So direct knowledge, indirect knowledge. One is, we say, pratyaksham. The other, we say, paroksham. Indirect knowledge is paroksha. Now, if you negate paroksham, then it will be aparoksham. Again, aparoksham will become pratyaksham. Na paroksham, aparoksham. So if we go by this method, we can say aparoksham can be either a synonym of pratyaksham or it can mean something more. Pratyaksham, direct knowledge. Paroksham, indirect knowledge. You direct knowledge gained by sensory perception, pratyaksham. Indirect knowledge gained by inference, paroksham. Suppose you have knowledge which is neither pratyaksham, born of sensory perception, nor paroksham, born of inference based upon sensory data. What is that knowledge? We have to say aparoksham. I employ means of knowledge. Like my senses, I employ. If I want to see, I open my eyes. And I turn towards the object. I place myself within the range of hearing in order to hear, in order to smell. Now here, I don't pick up the smell. Even here now, I had to do like this. Then I pick up the smell. So that's operating a means of knowledge. This is how you operate your means of knowledge. We have to taste. Then the object has to be in touch with the taste buds. So we employ a means of knowledge, like senses, to get this direct knowledge. Then based upon sensory data, we conclude, seeing just the light here, I say the sun is up, is not covered by clouds. Seeing the light here. That's indirect knowledge, aparokṣa jnanam, based upon sensory data. Now I employ all this therefore, to say that Swami is here, you have to see that is the pramana, the means of knowledge. I see, therefore Swami is. I see the light, therefore the sun is up. And the light is very clear, and therefore there are no clouds covering the sun. We have to put a class there. There are no clouds covering the sun, maybe around. Where the sun is, there are no clouds. You can be sure. So that's inference. Now, to make this inference, you use certain reasoning. That reasoning, we call it as inference. It's a two-step inference. It's called presumption, arthapatti. Otherwise it is not possible. This light won't be like this if clouds were there covering the sun. Otherwise it's not possible. That is called arthapatti. More than one step inference. That's what we do here. I am the one who is making all these inferences. I am the one who is perceiving. Suppose I ask you a question whether I exist or not. You ask a question to me. Whether you exist or not, I have to say I exist. I am. I am. How do you know? Somebody said, I think, therefore I am. The same someone said later, I am, therefore I think, which is more correct. You can't say, I think, therefore I am. If you don't think, you don't exist. That's the beginning. At the end, he concluded, Descartes, I am, therefore I think. Before I operate a little more precisely to tell, before I employ my senses before I reason, I am. I exist. So my existence, my presence presupposes perception, inference. So the knowledge of my existence self-existence is not arrived at by senses or by inference. Therefore, it is neither pratyaksham, perceptual knowledge, or paroksham, inferential knowledge. Therefore, aparoksham. The self is aparoksha. I am is aparoksha. The only thing in the world that is aparoksha is myself. Aparoksha means I don't need to employ a means of knowledge to have the knowledge. So everything else becomes evident to me. The Swami is sitting, becomes evident to you. Sun is becomes evident to you through a means of knowledge. It is all pramānasiddha. Becomes evident to you through a means of knowing. That which is evident to you without a means of knowledge is yourself. That you exist is self-evident. You don't require to consult anybody. You can't consult anyone. You don't consult anyone, whether you exist or not. To know more about your psychology, the emotional being, you may undergo a psychoanalysis to know more about yourself. What is the real nature of myself? It may require an elaborate inquiry. But all these inquiries are not meant for whether I am or not. In certain philosophy, after inquiry, they conclude I am not. I am zero. So the inquirer says that I don't exist. That's after inquiry. So that's a little difficult for me to even imagine. That's considered to be enlightenment. I am zero. You start with I am and then conclude zero, for which you don't require great inquiry. That's the beginning point. I am zero. So that I am is aparoksha. Aparokṣasya atmanaha anubhutiḥ. Aparokṣānubhūtiḥ. This Atma, this Aparoksha Atma is essentially free from any limitation. That immediate knowledge of the self-evident being is called aparokṣānubhūtiḥ. That the self-evident being is understood to be what? That's what Anubhuti. Understood as it is. That it is free from any limitation. The self is limitless. I am free from any limitation whatsoever. So that means this I am, the aparoksha, is taken to be a limited being, that I am a mortal, that I am of limited knowledge, limited strength, limited everything. I am time-bound, spatially limited, time-wise limited. I am a human being. That means I am not anything else. Human being occupying this place, this time. So there is a limitation, time, space. And who I am, there is a limitation. What I am, there is a limitation. This limitation seems to be real. Nobody can deny that this body is limited. Nobody can deny that. My senses are limited. Well, nobody can deny that. My knowledge is limited. Nobody can say anything against it. My power of memory and the composition of it, it's all limited. Nobody can deny that. Therefore, I am limited. That conclusion is questionable. That you see the sun rising in the eastern sky, no one can deny that. That it travels during the day, no one can deny that. And it sets in the western sky, nobody can deny that. Therefore, the sun rises and travels to get lost in the West. Eh? An Oriental guy gets lost in the West, you know. That conclusion is questioned. That there is a blue sky, no one can deny that. Therefore, that is the ceiling of space. Wrong conclusion. You don't see the stars during the day. That's a fact. Therefore, the stars have disappeared. Stars are not visible, which is correct. But if you say they have disappeared, that's wrong. That's a conclusion. Look at this, all our conclusions. The earth is flat. It's true. That's what you say. But the Mother Earth is a globe. It's an entirely different thing. So, what all we see is true. The sight is true. Based upon the sight, you can't make a conclusion. What is sighted is truth. You can't say that. Truth can be entirely different, accommodating your sight. Your sight is explainable. And the truth accommodates that. Therefore, this viparita drishti, a sight which is true, which is not true. True because you see the sunrise in the eastern sky. It is not true because it doesn't rise. The earth is spinning. So it is explained away. Once you say the earth is spinning, the sight of sunrise is accommodated, is explained away. So, there is no contradiction. So that this body is limited, my knowledge is limited, memory is limited, senses are limited, and everything else is different from me, looks all right, it's all true. Therefore, I am limited. That's not true. Because I am is of an order of different reality. And the body doesn't feel, doesn't have a sense of limitation. It doesn't have any complex. This body doesn't have a complex. If it has a complex, it won't collect all this fat, extra fat. It goes on storing up for a bad day. You can't convince this body. I say, come on, don't store anything. I have got enough for 3 generations. Come on. You won't have any problem. I will feed you. All the way, even if you live 100 years, I have a very good plan, retirement plan. Don't worry, don't store at all wrong places. Come on, don't store. The body doesn't listen to you. It is programmed. It has no complex. It's comfortable with extra kilos. You have problem getting up and getting down. It has no problem. The body doesn't have a complex. So the problem doesn't belong to the body. I am heavy, it doesn't belong to the body. That is why it becomes heavier. So I am black, I am white. All these problems the body doesn't have. The skin doesn't have a problem. Much less the mind has any problem. The mind is momentary, a thought is momentary. It occurs, it's gone. Before you come to recognize it, the thought is gone, a new thought has come. That's how you are able to see motion. How smooth. So many frames in your mind. So many frames. So the motion is recognized smoothly. If the thought frame is like one of these animations, like suppose, one of these animations, then my hand will be moving like this. The smoothness is because of the momentariness of your thought frame. Amazing. Therefore, mind doesn't have a problem, it doesn't stay. To have a complex, it's an instrument. It's a means at your disposal. Eyes also don't have any complex. Blue eyes or whatever eyes. all complexes are centered on I. Where the I sense is, there all the complexes are. That's why monkeys are safer than us. They don't seem to be conscious of themselves in a judging way, self-judging way. No chimpanzee thinks I'm a chimpanzee, I'm a gorilla. All animals are happy being what they are. They have no complexes. I'm a black cow, I'm a white cow, I'm a Jersey cow, I'm a Indian cow. No nationalities, no problems. The Arabian horses don't join jihad. They don't even know what they are fighting for. What is it that they are worried about? The human beings are funny. They say that they have evolved from monkeys. But you can't tell the monkeys. They will laugh at you. So their self-consciousness is inhibited. Doesn't have a self-judgment. All human problems are centered on the self, I. The body doesn't have a complex. Senses don't have a complex. The mind doesn't have a complex. I am is subject to complexes. If the limitations of this body, mind, sense complex are the limitations of I, then I should be all of them. If I am with them, but I am of a different order of reality. And the reality of my being doesn't include this body, mind, sense complex. Then I should know the relationship between I and this body, mind, sense complex and the world also. Of which this body is a part. Therefore, I need to know my position. Since all my problems are centered on my own conclusions about myself, these conclusions need to be examined. If they are true, I have no solution to the problem. If the limitations of the body are my limitations, if the limitations of everything else are my limitations, there is no solution to the problem. Problem of limitation is to be accepted. Accepted means what? There's no acceptance of limitation. Once you say limitation, you have to suffer. You have to suffer the limitation. If they are not part of I, if I am independent of these, they may not be independent of me. If I am independent of all of them, then I have no problems. Either I have no solution or I have no problem. If they are a part of me, I have no solution. If they are not, then I have no problem, correct? I have no problem. If I have no problem, my whole life is spent in solving problems which don't exist, okay? Whole life is spent and blown away solving problems that don't exist. And therefore, it's a thing to be examined very closely. It's not optional. It's my life. What I am going about in my life, this is exactly what I am going about. Assuming I have problems, I go about solving them. And nobody has solved anything. We only create more problems. And if there is no option in this, then we should give ourselves a chance, especially when somebody says, you are free from all problems. Accepting the limitation of the body. We don't say the body has no limitation. Accepting the limitation of the mind. We don't say that there is no limitation for the mind. So accepting the limitation. In spite of all these limitations, you are free from those limitations. That's what you experience whenever you are happy. The freedom from limitations being intrinsic to yourself. Even you cannot deny that fact. In spite of your thinking that you have all these limitations. But thinking being momentary, you can always be free from that kind of thinking. Occasionally, experientially. And therefore there are moments in your life when you see yourself in a different light. In spite of all limitations, you see yourself happy. You see yourself free. That's something. To be examined. If that is the truth about myself, I need to examine this. This is what Vedanta examines. The conclusions are examined and explained away. Like the sunrise is explained away, saying that there is no sunrise. The limitations are explained away, saying that there is no real limitation for you. You are free. The knowledge of this is what is called freedom. Moksha. Big word. It's called moksha. Moksha is from the root much, bandhan nivrittau. That O becomes O, guna. Adeng guna. O becomes O. And the cha becomes ka. There are one or two grammarians here, grammar students here, not grammarians, grammar students. Chokuhu. Moksha. Freedom from, not bondage, freedom from the wrong notion of bondage. The wrong notion that one had about oneself, that I am bound by limitations, freedom from that notion of bondage, by knowing that I am free. This is not salvation. Salvation is for the condemned. The one who is condemned is promised you will be given salvation. That's different. This is freedom. You are not condemned. You are free already. You cannot be any more than what you are. You are limitless. If there is a heaven, that heaven is you. You are limitless. Free from limitation means limitless. And therefore, it's right now here, it's not after death. Right now here. So this is the topic of Vedanta, is the topic of the book Aparokṣa Anubhuti. So we will come back and look into that. One verse we can read. Om śrīhariṃ paramānandam upadeṣṭāramīśvaram vyāpakaṃ sarvalokānāṃ kāraṇaṃ tam namāmyaham. We'll come back and look at that. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.